Now you're hurling. Lorna Porca with Tomás McCarthy on WLR.
Jack Prendergast now inside the 20-metre line, takes for a shot for a goal! What a goal! Where would you see a goal like that? Prendergast makes the run and buried it in the back of the net. Where would you see it, Dan? You'd be proud of that one yourself.
What a goal, what an absolute goal, Kieran. Massive run, massive up the field, from Irla to Austin. All the way up the field, but what a finish from Desi Hutchinson.
Desi came over there, Bennett was lurking, but it was Desi just pulled on it first time hurling, as Ned Power always said. Desi Hutchinson did it in spades. It's Wolf 12 to 110.
Yes, the championship summer is just around the corner for the Waterford hurlers. Liam Cahill's men finished their league campaign on a high with victory over Tipperary at Welsh Park last Sunday. And to look back at Waterford's season so far and pick his Daysha player of the league, delighted to welcome back to the show former Waterford defender and Munster Express writer Brian Flannery. And first of all, Brian, what impressed you most about Waterford's display last Sunday?
The performance against Tipperary was outstanding. It was really a pity that there was so few people in Welsh Park to witness it, and it wasn't covered on TG Carr on TV either. But it was a real, I suppose, statement of intent with the championship just around the corner. I think everything that you could have wished for, in the game in relation to the performance, the individual performance, the overall team performance, the fact that it was, you were playing it in the middle of the day under, I suppose the warm weather and coping with summer hurling, but it gave a preview of, please God, what we can look forward to from this Waterford team in the championship this year, which will be a summer championship. And I think that'll suit Waterford down to the ground, but, real fantastic performance. And really, the final score didn't do credit or justice to the level of performance and the difference, to be honest, between the two sides last Sunday.
Yeah, what was the big difference between the two teams, Brian, in your view?
Yeah, look, I think Waterford have developed, I suppose, a very set pattern of play, and I think, look, the glaring difference between the two teams was the pace, the energy. That kind of enthusiasm that Waterford played for, and it caused Tipperary all sorts of problems. But to players, Darragh Lyons was outstanding, Callum Lyons, and again the pace of Desi Hutchinson and Shane Bennett up front. Jack Prendergast, Peter Hogan was very good as well. The fact that Waterford were really taking the game to Tipperary and running at the Tipperary backs, and no defender wants to be facing their own goals. And that really caused huge problems to a Tipperary team that really had a championship look about it, maybe 13 or 14 of their championship side out. I'm sure Liam Sheedy and his management team went home with a lot of headaches.
Yeah, and I think Liam Cahill probably have headaches of the right kind, Brian, heading into the Clare game. Like, outside of the established names, which players put their hand up to start that Munster quarter-final?
Yeah, look, a player that really impressed me is Darragh Lyons. I suppose Jamie Byrne was rested, but he did a very good impression of Jamie Byrne, which is a huge compliment to Darragh Lyons. He was very good on the ball, again very busy, and playing that sort of that link role at centre field, linking the play from defence to attack, but also running at the opposition. That, again, a lot of what we'd be used to watching Jamie Byrne do. I think he's a player that's really put his hand up for selection for championship. He's a player that has played quite a bit under Liam Cahill, come on in all the big games last year. And I think he's probably going to have an enhanced role, and certainly wouldn't surprise me at all if Darragh Lyons and Dungarvan is in the starting lineup come Sunday week for the first round of the Munster Championship. But there's a lot of players, I suppose, that are coming into form at the right time. Shane Bennett's return has been hugely beneficial. Conor Gleeson, I thought, had a really good game against Tipperary, and after having maybe a couple of games where he struggled somewhat, but I think back in what's probably his best position at cornerback, he's another player that I think is going to be pushing hard for a place in Liam Cahill's starting 15.
And at the start of the campaign, Brian, Waterford had big gaps to fill with Stephen O'Keefe and Tadhg de Burka unavailable, and I suppose there were question marks raised about the Waterford defence, especially in the games against Cork and against Galway as well. Has Liam Cahill found replacements for those two players during the league campaign?
Yeah, look, again, he has options. I'm not so certain of which way he's going to go on it. I get the feeling that Erla Daly will be ultimately, when push comes to shove, will be the player that he'll plumb for in that pivotal centre back position. Again, in the games he's played, and particularly last day against Tipperary, Erla Daly again was foot perfect, positioning very good, and again also good going forward, ability to score from distance. He has all the attributes to to play centre back. And that trio before Austin Gleeson went off injured, you had Austin Gleeson at right half back, Erla Daly at centre back, and Callum Lyons at left half back. It really had a very solid look about it. Three very strong, influential players, and also players who were not just good defenders but good going forward. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if that was the half back line to start the Munster Championship.
Very good. And keeping on the topic of the Waterford defence, Brian, and looking at contenders for the Waterford Player of the League, certainly Captain Conor Prunty would be in that equation, but unfortunately he's a major concern for the Clare game with that quad injury picked up in the first half against Tipperary. How much of a loss would that be to Waterford?
Well, look, I suppose first and foremost, Conor Prunty is your captain, is your leader. And fullback is a difficult position to fill. It's not quite so easy to slip a player in there. And there's probably not a long list of automatic replacements. He'd be a huge loss if he can't line out against Clare on Sunday week. You'd be probably looking at, and again, a player that's had his own injury problems, somebody like Shane Fives, maybe to slip into the number 3 position. But again, he's had a few soft tissue injuries as well. So it would be, I suppose, of all the areas, the full back line, there's probably been, between Ian Kenny, Shane McNulty, Conor Gleeson, they have tried a number of different combinations. But to lose your anchor in the middle, Conor Prunty, look, that would be certainly concerning. Particularly when you're facing Clare, a Clare team that Aaron Shanahan, Shane O'Donnell, they have quite a potent full forward line. It's probably Clare's maybe most influential line as well. It certainly would be a blow. But there are options. I'd have little fear maybe of Shane Fives, if he was fully fit, slipping into full back. And I mean, Shane McNulty has played there as well. And in the modern game, I think anybody playing in the full back line, needs to be able to play in all 3 positions. So, having said that, it would be a blow and disappointing to lose your captain at this late stage.
Absolutely, Brian. And I suppose another influential player for Waterford over the past 2 seasons really has been Callum Lyons. Do you think he might pick up Tony Kelly again after the man-marking job he did in last year's All-Ireland quarter-final?
Yeah, look, I suppose that would be the general thinking. And again, last year below in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, he picked up Tony Kelly. Now, in fairness to Tony Kelly, he picked up an injury, I think, in the warm-up, aggravated during the game and ended up going off, didn't last the game. I just wonder, though, is it are you taking a lot from the Waterford, not just defence, but attack? Callum Lyons, we've seen his fortes up the fee, sorties, and his scoring ability. I don't know, would I like to take that away from the team to do a man-marking job on Tony Kelly? I mean, if I was Clare, the first thing I'd do is that I'd be shoving Tony Kelly in full forward or corner forward. So then Callum Lyons is a long ways away from influencing the game. I'm not so sure on this occasion. Certainly, if Tony Kelly is in the half forward line or midfield, maybe having Callum Lyons picking him up at that stage might make sense. But if Tony Kelly lines out in the full forward line, you are taking a lot away from, I suppose, the structure of the Waterford team and the attacking prowess as well. So, yeah, I think it needs a bit of careful consideration before I'd be pinning me colours to the mast that, saying that anywhere Tony Kelly goes, Callum Lyons is going to follow him. I think if Tony Kelly ends up in the full forward line, maybe somebody like Conor Gleeson might be an alternative option, which would, not take away as much maybe from the the structure of the Waterford team, because Callum Lyons and his performances, and he just fits into I suppose, the modern game where halfbacks are attacking an awful lot more and getting up and down the field. I'm not so sure I'd like to see him standing in corner back, just marking Tony Kelly, to be honest with you. So, and that's, if I was the Clare manager, that's the first thing I would do. Is I'd have Tony Kelly lining out in the full forward line, certainly for a period of time.
Don't be giving Brian Lohan ideas, Brian.
Oh, yeah. Well, look at it, but I mean, it's certainly something that I think I remember a number of years ago at a Club All Ireland. Dura Bearfield from Clare and Athenry from Galway, and I think it was Joe Rabbit ended up corner forward with Shawnee McMahon marking him. So in effect, Dura Bearfield were taking their best player out of centre back all the way back to stand in corner back and mark Joe Rabbit. So there's always, I suppose, tactical manoeuvres on the sideline. I think if you have a very fixed mind on a man marking job, it can work against you as well. So, but I'm sure, Liam Cahill and his management team will have plan A, B and C available for Tony Kelly should the need arise.
Absolutely. Look, it's going to be very interesting to see where both Caleb Lyons and Tony Kelly line out come June 27th, Brian. And I just want to put, I suppose, 3 more contenders at you for the Player of the League, Brian. Desi Hutchinson, Jack Prendergast and Stephen Bennett. I'm sure all 3 of those would be in your thoughts in terms of Waterford's leading light during the league campaign.
Yeah, look, I suppose Callum Lyons and Stephen Bennett have really carried on from their performances last season. And, Stephen Bennett is a current All-Star. Callum Lyons, I would have had him in my team of the year as well, but they're both playing at an All-Star level. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I think Jack Prendergast has added an awful lot to his game, even since last year. His work rate is unquestioned, but I think he's adding an awful lot more scores to the team this year, both scoring and creating scores. Brilliant goal against Galway. So look, he's another player, I suppose, that stepped up. And I suppose that combination then, Shane Bennett coming back into the attack, linking up with his brothers, adds extra pace to the Waterford forward division. But I suppose, look, there's within Waterford, outside Waterford, I think the one name that's to the forefront in relation to the performances this season is Desi Hutchinson. I think he's probably not just been Waterford's player of the league, but you could certainly make a very strong argument he's been the player of the league. He's been nothing but outstanding in the games, and he's developed further on. He's great introduction last season, All-Star nominee last season, but he's moved it even up another step this year. And the finishing for the goals against Galway and last Sunday against Tipperary, like he's the goal of the season competition is really a Desi Hutchinson highlight reel at this stage. He's going to be a huge player, and particularly with a summer championship this year, I expect that he'll be pivotal in Waterford's attack. But he's really been the player to watch in the league campaign, and certainly he'd be certainly my player of the league. As I said, not just Waterford's player of the league, but he'd be my player of the league.
Great stuff, Brian. And as you mentioned, there are a couple of goal of the season contenders so far from Desi, like 3 goals and 5 in his last 2 starts. So Desi Hutchinson gets the nod as your player of the league. What was your highlight of the league, Brian, from a Waterford perspective?
The funny thing about it is even though they lost to Galway, I think the first 30 minutes, again, that, Waterford were so good in that period of time. If you couldn't sustain that, over a 70-minute game, like that's All Ireland winning form. And again, I suppose last Sunday against Tipperary, after half time, I think they scored 8 out of the first 9 points in that third quarter, outscored Tipperary 8 points to 3, probably to the second water break. That sort of form, like as I said, you'd have to say Waterford are contenders for any and every championship if they can bring that form into the championship. And that's a fantastic prospect. I think the other huge plus is I think Liam Cahill has used maybe over 33 players at this stage, and at no stage, have Waterford looked vulnerable when, maybe using some of the lower numbers on the panel, which is a great sign as well. I can only imagine that I suppose the camp must be in great form as well. The fact that you're able to give so many players the opportunity to play, stake a claim for a place. I mean, that's brilliant for cohesion within a squad. And they must really be looking forward to this year's championship. And I think the summer championship will suit Waterford. They've got players who've got pace. They've players with obviously great fitness. And, they've, whether by design or otherwise, I think they have a formula with the pace of Desi Hutchinson and Shane Bennett up front, the work rate around the field by the likes of Jack Prendergast, Darragh Lyons, Jamie Byrne, with, sprinkled in with real, all-star quality, the likes of Austin Gleeson, Stephen Bennett, Callum Lyons. I think it's based on current form, Waterford will be, serious contenders for both Munster and All-Ireland championships.
Yeah, even with those injuries, Brian, and, missing the likes of Stephen O'Keefe and Ty de Burke from last year, you still see Waterford as genuine contenders.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's we're just saying it there, without, Ty de Burke and maybe Conor Prunty in a bit of bother, and we haven't even mentioned Pádraig Mahony. So it's again a huge compliment to the players themselves, but also to the management team. They've really developed the panel, and it's a panel, I certainly think is probably stronger and has greater depth than what we've seen in the recent past. So I think it's, we've a great summer to look forward to. The sun is shining, Munster Championship around the corner. It's as I said, it's really positive. The injuries is maybe one little concern, but you would hope that if Conor Prunty doesn't make it the first day out, that he will be, he'd be available for the rest of the championship. And it is a difficult, I suppose, schedule. They've had 5 league games in a very short period of time. So I think a lot of counties have injury worries at the moment. So just fingers crossed that that they can get to the Munster Championship, get to Thurles without anybody else. And as I said, maybe Conor Prunty might recover in time for it. I'm not sure that they're giving up all hope yet. But it's I think it's certainly the prospects are very strong and the outlook is excellent for Waterford, and hopefully we'll get a few thousand supporters in there as well, because it does make a difference. Having fans at games makes a huge difference. You'll see from the soccer on the TV there at the Euros, it does make a big difference. If we can get 5,000 or 6,000 Waterford supporters into Thurles Sunday week, that'll give the lads a huge boost as well. And I think they really look like they're enjoying life, they're enjoying hurling, and as I said, hopefully it'll be a long and fruitful summer ahead.
Fingers crossed. Well, former Waterford defender and Munster Express writer Brian Flannery, thanks so much for your time today, and I will catch up with you again later in the summer.
Cheers, Tomas.
Oh, lovely bit of play there by Austin Gleeson, as only Ozzy can do. Makes it look so simple. A simple game played by a brilliant player. Ball breaks to that man again. Desi is on 13. He's going to take a shot. Oh, brilliant goal by Desi. That's more like a by the belly on a race. We say you don't give that man space. He gets the space, but he has the skill to bury it in the neck, and all Brian Hogan can do is pick it out. Desi at his brilliant best. The belly gunner race strikes again.
Unbelievably finished here. He had options either side, but had the confidence to go and say, you can be surprised again. Last week's game for Desi has really, really set him up for the championship.
Now you're hurling. Lorna Porca with Tomas McCarthy on WLR.